Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to yet another Advocate Spotlight. Tonight, you just get me of the three co-founders of Advocacy Con. Eric had a work trip that his travel schedule got a little delayed, and Melissa's hanging out here in the comments, but she's recovering from the flu. So she's hanging out in the comments. If you want to talk to her, say hi. She's feeling better. That's all that's important. But just me on screen today. I am joined by the wonderful Julie Lopez. I've been excited to meet her. Our friend Nina has talked extensively about you, and it's an honor to meet you virtually. And I can't wait to meet you in 5 short weeks. Don't remind me, but 5 short weeks for Advocacy Con.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much. So, Julie, tell us about your organization, how you got involved. Just give us all the deets.
Yeah, so I was excited that Nina brought this conference and what you do to my attention, because it's really what I have been doing since 2011. Actually, I didn't know what Crimestoppers was back then, but my degree actually is in horticulture, so it sounds kind of odd that I'm doing Crimestoppers now. For 20 some years while we were raising our kids. I worked at garden centers. I had my own business doing landscape designs and consulting. So small business, teaching gardening classes. And I had a lot of other small jobs while I was raising our kids. But in 2011, my husband and our 3 boys, we were on vacation, and we received a devastating phone call that my father-in-law had been shot in his home in Flint. And his name's Pablo Lopez, and that was something that just rocked our world, really. And it just was inconceivable that someone would take his life. And I just remember that night we were debating on telling our kids, because they were 16, 13, and 11 at the time. And like I said, we were on vacation, and we were out at the lake all day. And then we got that call, and we were at a friend's house, their cottage. And we were debating, do we tell them right now, or do we wait till the morning? What do we do? And we decided after a while, a couple of hours of us trying to wrap our heads around the fact that he was murdered, that we needed to tell them. And I remember our 16-year-old at the time, I mean, they were in shock. And he just said, why would someone do that to Grandpa? And I always get choked up when I think about my kids getting upset about it. Like, I do this for my job now, and I can talk about this all the time. I do, present all the time, and I can say it. But whenever I bring my kids into it, and I remember that day that it actually, that we found out, it brings back that pain. So long story short, I suppose, is we were frustrated. We weren't, having the greatest communication with the detective. There were emergency manager situation in Flint at the time. And I understand it. I get that, that they're trying to do their job and everything, but we didn't know what to do. So after a couple of weeks, I reached out to someone, and they said, you need to call Crimestoppers. I'm like, okay, what's Crimestoppers? And then anyway, that's how I got involved with Crimestoppers. And so now I'm the executive director for Crimestoppers of Flint and Genesee County, and the regional director for Crimestoppers USA.
That's amazing. I mean, I hate that your path to Crimestoppers began with your own personal tragedy, but the amount of things that Crimestoppers does, the resources they provide, is amazing. And I've known about Crimestoppers my whole life, but I don't know what Crimestoppers is. So can you kind of tell anyone watching what exactly Crimestoppers does?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what Crimestoppers is, we're a nonprofit organization, and we get information from the community to law enforcement anonymously. So we partner, it's kind of like a triangle. We partner with the community, law enforcement, and the media. And so we get information from law enforcement, and we highlight the crimes on media, on social media. And then when information comes into our system, we process that information anonymously to law enforcement. And if that information has helped lead to an arrest in the case, then the tipster is awarded a cash reward. Now, across the country, approximately 50% of the money has never been collected. So, in the Crimestoppers world, we always kind of wonder, why didn't they collect it? And we like to think it's because they just wanted to do the right thing and provide the information. But we also have to be kind of honest with ourselves and think that some of them don't believe it's an anonymous pickup. Some people are very fearful of retaliation, which is why they get a hold of Crimestoppers to begin with. But we have methods in place to ensure their anonymity. So we have most programs. So we're all individually run. So all the different Crimestoppers programs across the country have their own board of directors, and they cover a certain area. So like the Detroit area Crimestoppers, they cover 7 counties around Detroit. We cover Flint and Genesee County. There's there's 20 some programs in the state of Michigan, and there's hundreds of programs across the United States and across the world, really. So, but we all work together also, which is amazing. It's an amazing network that we have, because if a tip comes into our program and it lists someone in Mississippi, then we will send that information through the computer system to them. Or let's say this has happened to several programs, and I'll use mine as an example. One of our tipsters submitted a tip for our area, and then a year and a half later contacted us and said that he had moved across the country because he was afraid because he had submitted this tip. So we worked with the other Crimestoppers program to get the payout for the reward anonymously. So anyway, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I want to get back to how we process the tips anonymously, because a lot of people ask about that. So we have, like I said, we have a process in place where the call is scrambled before it goes to our call centers. We've got a couple different call centers that different Crimestoppers programs use across the country. One is in Canada and one is in Texas, and they are 24/7. So you call the Crimestoppers phone number that's local, and then you get connected to whichever call center it is. There's no caller ID. The calls are not recorded. The call takers don't say if it's a male or female calling. They don't get any information from that tipster. And then it goes to the Crimestoppers program, and they ensure also that the tipster did not identify themselves. And then we send the information to law enforcement. The tipster is given a tip number, and that's how they are identified when they call back or when they go onto the app to check back through their status. So we have websites, and we have a mobile app, which is p3tips.com, or P3Tips app, and then p3tips.com is what most of the Crimestoppers programs use. And we don't track IP addresses either.
That's amazing. I've always wondered how you truly keep it anonymous, because we live in a world where caller ID is standard these days. Everything is attached to your name, your phone number. So it's just truly amazing that y'all have that multi-layer process to ensure that.
Trust me, law enforcement asks constantly to have us connect them with the tipster. And just yesterday, I was at the detective bureau, and they're like, "Can you have them call me?" And I'm like, "Well, they know how to call you. They know how to call the police. They contacted Crimestoppers because they wanted to remain anonymous, and we have to keep our tipsters anonymous. Otherwise, we won't have a program." So they're like, "Yeah, but I need to get more information." Well, we can communicate through the app, or if they call back in, then we can get more information from them if needed. But the tipster has to contact us again. It's not like we would send something on P3 and we would reply to the tipster, "Hey, the detective is asking this, do you know what color of car they're driving?" or something like that. It doesn't go, "Ding, Crimestoppers sent you a message." reply, because that could be dangerous. So that doesn't happen. So the tipster has to log back in with their password, check to see if there's an update. And often it'll say your tip helped lead to an arrest. Would you like to collect the reward? If so, we'll give you the information. And that's an anonymous pickup. And all the programs have their own way of doing that. But we definitely do everything we can to keep our tipsters anonymous.
So it is a one-way communication. There's, like you said, there's no back and forth. There's no like messaging system within the app where y'all are asking questions back and forth.
Yeah,
okay,
we can.
Okay.
But law enforcement, we don't let law enforcement, at least our program doesn't do that.
Okay.
Most programs don't let law enforcement do that, but they have to log back in to have that communication, or they have to call the call center. Like today, a tipster called. Our phone number is 1-800-422-JAIL. They called the call center. The call center had some more questions about what was happening with this tipster. And I said, yeah, go ahead and connect them to me. So it's got connected to me, but it says that the call center called me. So I don't know who that is, because the call center, and then also the tipster doesn't have my phone number. So it was all through them, which is all anonymous.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And this is a nonprofit organization. So how do y'all afford this? Because technology is not cheap by any means. So all of these steps and programs and the science behind the scrambling of numbers and all of that, how do you fund that?
Yeah, that's the difficult part of my job, and for many, many programs across the country, is our fund development, the fundraising. A lot of programs do fundraisers. My program, we have been, I learned how to write grants. So like I said, my career before was small business. So I didn't know anything about nonprofit organizations or board of directors or writing grants. So it's pretty fascinating. I actually kind of like it in a weird way. It's a lot of work, but I find them interesting because we are able to gather more data from what the grant is asking us to do. So it's kind of interesting for me. But so there's no federal money coming in unless you can get a grant. But we are not. Some states have it where if like you get the community gets tickets, then like maybe $1 or $2 or some percentage goes towards the Crimestoppers program. Others have grant funds from their state. So every state does it a little bit differently. But in Michigan, we don't have anything like that in place. So I mean, I've tried to do that in my county, but I couldn't get that going. So we do grants, we do corporate sponsors. So we highlight our corporate sponsors. We had our first fundraiser last year in our community, and it was so much fun. It was a whodunit, but it was called Who Donut, and it was who stole the donuts from a cop school safety meeting. And it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of persons of interest who could have stolen the donuts. And it ended up being our sheriff and McGruff the dog. They were in cahoots to get the donuts. So it was a lot of fun. We had Michigan State Police, Bridgeport lab directors, the forensic directors, and his team came and had the fingerprints, and they had saliva. Like people had to go and actually figure out how to solve the crime, from surveillance video to footprint impressions and fingerprint. And so it was a lot of fun, but fundraisers are a lot of work. And if that could be easier, that would be a lot nicer for not only my program, but all the Crimestoppers programs. The thing is people donate to things that pull at their heartstrings, right? Children, animals, they donate to things that pull at their heartstrings. Well, people who are affected by crime don't necessarily have the money to donate. And then the people who have the money aren't always affected by crime. And so we try to let the businesses in our area know that the safer our community, the better it is for the economic development of the community. And that helps, and it makes sense. And we are a partner not only are we helping the families who are affected by crime, but we're helping law enforcement. And if you think about it, cutting down on investigative hours is very important, and it's going to save the taxpayer money by solving these crimes. And then it cuts down on their workload. Like, I didn't know any police officers before I started my job, and now it's who I work with, and a lot of them have become good friends. And I see their workload, I see their stress levels, and they want to solve the crimes. Then I also have the family members who I work with who are frustrated because the detectives haven't called them back. But the detectives don't have anything to update the family on. So if we could have that communication, that would be a better world, I suppose. More communication.
Right. Finding that balance to, help the workload of detectives, because most, like you said, most detectives that we have worked with, that we've talked to, they are overworked, underpaid. There's so many cases coming across their desk. It's a lot.
Mhm.
And to be able to keep up that high level of communication, even if they don't have anything to update them with, but taking the time to say, hey, I don't have anything to update you with, that takes time away from doing other things. So I fully understand. It would just, if we could get that perfect balance, that mesh between the two I feel like, solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, and I feel like we're like the liaison between the two entities, and I feel actually kind of blessed to be in the situation that I'm in because I understand where that family member is coming from. I mean, I waited every day to get a phone call from the detective, and then, 5 o'clock rolled around. I go, well, I guess he's not working now. I'm not going to hear. And then waited and waited. And you're always waiting. And I hear that from the families. And so when they get a call from Crimestoppers and say, hey, we're working on your case, or if they can hit share on Facebook, that makes them feel like somebody still cares. We also had, we're not the only program who has done this, and it wasn't our idea, but we received a grant from Season of Justice to highlight the decks of cards. So we created a deck of cards on 52 unsolved cases, and they go into the Genesee County Jail, and they, hopefully will create some chatter. And then when they leave the jail, the inmates will get a resource bag with a deck of cards in it. And then that goes into the community strategically to, maybe they know about what's happening in the crime with this. But so getting back to the families, is when we told the families that this is what we were doing, it made them feel like we were trying another avenue, that, we're not giving up. And so many of the families are so grateful, even though it's not solved yet, they just feel like someone still cares. We've got cases from the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. And, when we highlight those on the decks of cards, or even on our billboards or on social media, I know that it makes the families feel good.
And I know I've seen personally several Crimestoppers billboards, and is one of the more difficult items of your job of trying to come up with creative strategies like these deck of cards, like these other educational campaigns, to help those families? Do you struggle with that? I know that's something Melissa and I in the advocacy world struggle with, of trying to come up with creative ways to advocate.
Honestly, I just need more funding. I have a lot of ideas. Our program actually won a national and international award for being the first Crimestoppers program to utilize geofencing to target high crime areas. So we have where the billboard is placed in a high crime area where the crime happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a 2-mile radius where Outfront Media is who we work with it for this campaign. And if you're on your mobile device within this 2-mile radius, and you're on an app or a website associated with Outfront Media, and then we pay for a number of impressions. So we with the grant we received, we get about 75,000 impressions in a 4-week period. So if you're on your mobile device, it could pop up an ad that says, do you know? So the billboard says, do you know who killed me? And it's got, someone on the billboard with the date that it happened. Then it would pull up a banner ad and it would say, do you know who killed me? Click here. And then you would click on that and it takes you to a landing page with a public service announcement, which is 30 seconds of me saying, hi, I'm Julie Lopez with Crimestoppers. Do you know what happened to this person on this date? Yeah, Michael Smith, he was killed on June 26th in his home. Michael Smith was sleeping in his bed. He was a Vietnam veteran. And his family I've gotten close with. So anyway, so I would read off this synopsis of what happened at the crime. And then there's also another button to click to either call the call center to say, they know what happened, submit a tip online. And so that's one method that we get that out. Another one is you drive by the billboard. This is newer technology with OTTC TV, where you drive by the billboard and the billboard somehow with technology, it picks up your IP address from your phone. And then when you go home and you turn on your streaming device, whether it's your computer, your smart TV, and you get a commercial, I'm Julie Lopez with Crimestoppers. Do you know who killed Michael Smith? He was killed on June 26th in his home, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I just drove by a billboard. How did that even happen? Oh my gosh. Well, that's how it is. It's from the geofencing and how it's targeted that way. So the playing cards are another thing. We've got another project that we're working on, and this is the first time that we've done this. We're working with Doxa Development, which is another nonprofit organization in our area. And we are it's called Heart to Canvas, and the ART in heart is capitalized. And we're getting together between around 10 to 15 local artists, and then 10 to 15 family members who have been affected by crime, unsolved crime. And we're going to pair them. And then the artists are going to have a couple of months to create a piece of art in reflection of what the family member told them. We don't know what it is. I mean, we're working on getting these artists together, and then we're going to highlight those at our community safety resource fair. And that's another way to highlight this. Not only is this going to be therapeutic for these families, but it's going to bring attention for our local artists. And then it's going to tell stories about what this does to the families and how the effects that it has. And at our resource fair, this is our 7th year having it. We had to skip 2020 and 2021 because of COVID, but this will be our 7th year doing it. And it is revolving around Crime Victims Rights Week in April from the Department of Justice, but it revolves around that. We're having both of these on different times. One is in March for the pairing of the artists, and then the other one is May 17th, and that's at Burston Fieldhouse in Flint. And we're going to have the art exhibit at our Community Safety Resource Fair. And at that resource fair, we have almost 40 agencies that come and set up a table, and it's resources for people who are affected by crime on any level of crime, whatever type of crime. We have all these different agencies there, and we also have health and wellness people there because they need those resources as well. So, I mean, I love that you asked that question, because look at how excited I get. We have so many ideas of what we want to do to help the families. We just need more funding to keep doing these things.
That is truly amazing. And I think it's a common misconception that Crimestoppers is really, like Robert said in the comments, that they are associated with the police department only, and that it's funded through the police department. And I think it's such a myth that people don't realize that you are a nonprofit and you're doing so many things besides bringing awareness. You're bringing education opportunities to your communities. And it doesn't matter what crime. It is not just about unsolved homicides. It is not just about missing people. It is every crime. Anyone that's affected by any crime can be a Crimestoppers can help. Excuse me.
Sure.
Words are not working for me today.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that. If, like, they'll say, well, I didn't see this crime on Crimestoppers. It wasn't highlighted on Crimestoppers. we can't highlight every single crime. So if you know about a crime, submit it to Crimestoppers, and then they can send it on to law enforcement. Now, to answer that question about being part of a police department, there are some Crimestoppers programs. They still have they still have a civilian board of directors. So I'm a civilian running this program, but a lot of Crimestoppers programs have a civilian board of directors, which is the rule, but they have a police officer as their coordinator. So the tips will go there, and that coordinator is instructed that it is tough, but they have to make sure that everything is kept anonymous. And then they make sure that it goes to the right agency. So I have someone helping me because I've been doing this 11 years now. So after 9.5 years of processing these tips every weekend, every vacation, everything. I've got help now. So I have someone who's retired law enforcement who knows the agencies and knows how to, do this well and has the connections. So that's how we run our program. But I appreciate that comment because some programs are that way. And it's true. A lot of people do think that Crimestoppers are law enforcement, but we're not law enforcement.
Wow. I'm still blown away by all of your ideas. I keep my mind keeps jumping back to all these creative, just all these creative ideas of how to get in front of new people and those educational opportunities and, your initiatives that the nonprofit is behind, your mission and all the good things you're wanting to do in the community. The billboards is just...
Some people have podcasts. So there's the Dex podcast, there's the Vanished podcast, there's Crime Junkies. There's a lot of them out there. We've talked about having it. We just don't have the funding to do it. And we thought, well, could it be a funding stream? And I'm like, well, we need another person to help then because it's another job it's in itself. But I think that could be exciting as well. But yeah.
Okay, now we're just going way off the cuff here. So as a podcaster, because I don't know what you know about me, Julie, but myself and my co-host, Melissa, the one in the comments, we have a podcast. So that's what got us into the true crime community. So is this something that perhaps as volunteers, we could come in and help with that? And she's going to be so upset about me signing her up for another project.
But I feel your pain.
Is it something that you could ask for volunteers? So you can volunteer with Crimestoppers, correct?
Yes. Crimestoppers programs do ask for volunteers.
Okay. So could we, maybe this is an off-camera conversation and we could talk about this later, but perhaps that's an avenue, getting together trusted podcasters that can help with that,
right.
In their local areas.
I've been interviewed for several podcasts, and I appreciate, having that awareness campaign, but also I keep thinking well, how can we make it a funding stream so that, because before why I didn't do it is I didn't have the money to have somebody help me do this and all the equipment and whatever else it takes because I haven't done one. So yeah.
Right. Well, we should talk about this further. Maybe this is a conversation for while we're in Indy, because I think there's a way we could figure that out logistically to help you guys without it being overly without it being a huge expense on your budget. I don't know where I was going with that thought process.
Believe me, I've got the content. And the connections. Because I've had, we tried to start one. Well, we didn't go too far with it. This was a few years ago. And I've got retired detectives who said they would talk about cases and family members that wouldn't mind getting on and talking about it. And we've got content.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but there are those podcasts I just mentioned, they're knocking it out of the park. So they're doing amazing work. But I think you can still have one, maybe we do one for Michigan or something. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll talk logistics later. So as a civilian, you said that there are volunteer opportunities. Can you talk more about that? What is a volunteer opportunity with Crimestoppers?
So it would depend on the program and your local program. Everybody would have different things. So my favorite and best volunteer is my McGruff the dog volunteer. So he gets into the costume and goes to community events. And I've got some people who work our booths at community events. Also, because of grant funding, I was able to hire a couple of people to go to those events. And I'm paying a couple of them because I needed to rely on them heavily for like really representing, the organization. And if you say you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Sometimes with volunteers, it might fall through or whatever, but we also would need volunteers. And who our best volunteers are the families who are affected by crime, because then they can sit at the table with me or one of the these community engagement representatives that we have, and they can, when people come up, we have a binder that is this thick with unsolved crimes, with that like those posters that you showed to my father-in-law. So people will flip through that book when we're at community events, and inevitably someone at every one of these events has someone in that book that they know, that they're related to. And then the people at our booth can relate to them and say, I can say, my father-in-law's in that book too. I'm really sorry what you're going through. And then I've also been able to say, I know you're a detective, and I know you don't think they're working on it, but I heard your son's name last week in the hall, but they don't have anything to tell you yet. But I'm telling you, they care about this case. So it's nice that they can hear that. And I'm not making it up. It is very true. I don't make that stuff up.
That's amazing. It's such a small world that people don't realize. It's like you said, flipping through that book, knowing that someone you know is in there, or you've heard of it. It's just,
what's sad is there's a lot of young people, teenagers, that will flip through and they'll say, oh, I know who did that. Yeah, everybody knows who killed this person. I'm like, why won't you say anything? It's like, oh, the street will take care of it. And I'm like, no, you can report it anonymously, but there's that stigma.
Right.
So, yeah. There was also, you had asked more about volunteer work. Our board of directors are all volunteers, and they're amazing. So, with all across the country, again, I keep saying it because there's programs everywhere where people are on these board of directors. I've got, my treasurer is a CPA. I've got retired law enforcement. I've got public relations people. So I've got even more than that, but those are just popping in the top of my head, that those people help tremendously.
That's amazing. So Robert asks, is there a spot where we can find a list of every Crimestoppers branch? Is that just on your website where you can find the one closest to you in case you want to volunteer?
No, on Crimestoppers USA, we used to have that. I'll have to look and see. I don't think it was updated though. I think the best way to do it is just to say, like, you could say Albuquerque Crimestoppers, if that's your area, and just see if there's one in your area, or Los Angeles has a Crimestoppers, or check which area. That's the best way, because we used to have one on our USA website, but I don't think it's been up to date.
It's really not hard to find. I think if you do a quick Google, even Crimestoppers near me, I know because I'm in Austin, Texas, so it's not the Austin Crimestoppers, it's capital area Crimestoppers. So you have to kind of be creative with the names as well. But I think that you could find it fairly easy with a Google search.
You have a lot of Crimestoppers programs in Texas.
We're a pretty big state, so we kind of need them.
So I'm the regional director, and I cover Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. And the regional director in Texas covers Texas.
Right. I'm not surprised by that.
They might have more programs than I have in my 4 states.
Yeah, I can understand it for sure. We are a big, big state. Okay. So again, if there's any questions, please keep them coming. I'm sure Julie will be happy to answer any she has the answers to. How can we, as the advocacy conference, collaborate with you guys and help spread awareness more outside of doing these like advocate spotlights and of course, the normal social media stuff? How can we support you further?
Um, I think there are so many different programs that have their own Facebook page and sharing information. That's what we do, but that's a full-time job, honestly. Like I've got an assistant who helps me with social media, and it's hard to keep up with all of them, but that's a great way to do it. I'm excited. I've let everybody know at USA, like letting them know about this conference, and then they're going to spread the word also. So I think it's really networking is important. Um, I don't know how else.
We're so excited to have you there, and you're speaking. So we're super excited about that as well. So if anyone's still on the fence about coming, you should come. Listen to Julie
Yeah.
talk. We've got
Actually, I
tons.
found these when I was going through my stuff. Where I'm going to be at the
Oh,
table with Nina and hopefully Sarah as well, Sarah Krebs, who
mhm.
started this, and then Nina runs the page. So yeah, we work very closely together, and she does so much for social media that we share each other's information because crime doesn't stay in one area.
Exactly. Nina is just truly amazing. I can't talk about talk enough good things about Nina. She's been just a godsend for us with helping us navigate this first conference. So, talk to me about your thoughts on the importance of community advocacy with solving crimes.
The law enforcement will agree they can't do it without the community. The community is they're the ears and the eyes, and they need to help law enforcement. I mean, law enforcement puts together the forensic evidence, but if they don't have that information coming in from the community, how are they going to solve it? So I don't know if you've heard this before, but for our law enforcement, they tell me with the unsolved crimes, they know about 75% of who did it, but they need more evidence. So they need people to come forward also. But people are afraid of retaliation, and I get that. So that's why Crimestoppers is there. And even with my conversation yesterday with this detective, he's like, well, I really need somebody to come in and talk to me. What good is it to have a Crimestoppers tip? And I'm like, well, maybe they tell you where the weapon is, or maybe they, we have little tiny bits of information that have helped solve a crime. Law enforcement, they have a lot of evidence. Like I'm thinking of a certain case, but they didn't know where the weapon was. Or we have another case where they had the street name of the person, but they didn't know the person's real name, and a tip came in and gave them the real name. So like even little stuff like that can help solve the crimes. So that's one way, right? That's if you have that information. But so many of the people that I talk to, especially family members, are like, I see your commercials on TV and we want to help. Even before this happened to our family, we knew we would just want to help. We always want to help. People do want to help. And they just even by spreading the word, hitting share on Facebook, that helps. Even if you don't have that information to help solve that crime, obviously donations, that's always a given. But and then just showing the support, really.
Can you, and sorry, back to what you're saying, helping break the stigma of that you are here to help, that it is truly anonymous. Just reminding people that this is a safe place to go if you have the information. Boosting the signal is so important, as Nina says. It is just continuously talking about it. Can you share maybe one or two success stories from Crimestoppers?
Sure. Let me think. I got to think of something that's not in court because I don't want to
Sure.
ruin anything. Well, people can Google this one. But I can't, I mean, and it gives a lot of detail in these articles, is if you pull up PlayStation homicide Flint, you'll pull up that, of course, I can't think of the victim's name off the top of my head, but it'll pull up on the screen if you do that. We had a tip that came in, and it describes it in that article that the suspect went into the house and was threatening and then killed the victim. And in that article, it also says that the PlayStation had recorded all of it on audio.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
so it says in there,
Bethridge?
Yes. It says in there that an anonymous tip came in, but because we had to make sure, and
Of course,
the agent, we went back and forth. He's like, I've got to say something, but he said he did his due diligence, and investigators, they like to solve everything, and they almost really want to even know who the tipsters are. And I'm like, stop it. That's not the job that you're doing. But he said he really truly did not identify the tipster in that. So that was a good one. We have a lot of them are for fugitives. Oh, this is a good one. This wasn't actually a tip though. A tip didn't help solve it. But what happened is there was a fugitive, and we put him all over the news and put him on social media, up to $1,000 to get this guy. And he turned himself in. And as he was the law enforcement agent, I'll never forget this. This was so many years ago. It was 8:23. And I'm like, my phone, like I got a message. I'm like, what? Like, why is he calling me this late at night? And he's like, I just wanted to let you know. They're excited to let us know when they make an arrest. He said, I just want to let you know that we just arrested him. And as he's cuffed, putting him in the back of the car, he turned himself in. He says, ain't nobody going to get $1,000 from me. So he didn't want any of his friends or anybody else calling in. So he turned himself in instead. So that was amazing. Kind of fun. Yeah. So it worked. I mean, he saw his face out there on Crimestoppers and turned himself in.
So can you tell me about the process? Let's say a family member comes to Crimestoppers. How do they work with you to have a reward associated with their case?
So normally law enforcement is the one who comes and says, hey, can you highlight this crime? I need help. I don't have any more leads. Everything is dried up. Actually, on almost all of the press releases, when it goes out, when the crime first happens, it says, call detective so-and-so at this phone number or email, whatever, or to remain anonymous, call Crimestoppers at this, blah, blah, blah. Later, when they don't have anything, then they say, can you highlight this on Crimestoppers? So there would be a reward no matter what, whether we highlight it or not, if a tip came in that helped lead to an arrest. Okay. So if we highlight it, then it's usually because law enforcement says, hey, can you help us out on this? And we do. But I always tell them, let the family know, because they don't want to see this on TV on Crimestoppers without knowing, because it has happened. And that's difficult. Now, the other way is we get messages on, Facebook or through our email, whatever, or at community events. Hey, how come my son's not on here? And I'm like, who's your son? When did this happen? Oh, it's not solved. Let me look. So then I will reach out to the detective and say, or the lieutenant and say, who's on this case now? Because there's been, retirements or promotions or whatever. Find out who's on it now. And then we're able to determine whether it can go on Crimestoppers or not.
Okay. And if someone comes in with a donation, are they allowed to donate for specific cases?
That's a great question. So all the programs are different, okay, with different dollar amounts. But my program, we have two different reward amounts. And we've got one that is we always say up to a certain dollar amount, because we have a chart that we follow, and it depends on the amount of the warrant is worth a certain amount. So we have 3 crimes that are up to $2,500. Homicide, missing person where law enforcement believes foul play is suspected, and hit and run resulting in death. Those three types of crimes are awarded up to $2,500. All other felony crimes are worth up to $1,000. So let's say somebody's wanted for assault with intent to murder, then they're going to get more money than somebody who's wanted for like probation violation. Okay, so we have a chart that we follow. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very consistent all across the board. That's for every case. Okay, so family members are like, my loved one's going to be on a Crimestoppers. Like, what do I have to pay for that? It's like nothing. You don't pay for any of this, not even the reward. But I don't know if you notice on my father-in-law's poster, it says up to 10,000. And actually, if you pull that up, you'll see there's an asterisk there. And down below, it says money outside of Crimestoppers. It's a little blurry there, but it says additional money outside of Crimestoppers was donated to this reward. Okay. So over the years, we had his local UAW had a fundraiser and we raised $4,000. And then some family members pitched in money. One of my board members donated money. Him and his wife donated $1,000. And then one of his business donated extra. He said, we've got to get it up to $10,000. So our program only goes up to $10,000. We won't go higher than that. But other programs, Crimestoppers USA does not recommend going higher. But and some people don't like it at all because they think, well, then how come this isn't worth more? And how come that isn't worth more? And it's like, it gets into that conversation and it is sensitive because not everybody has that extra, but I got to tell you, $10,000 hasn't helped our case. It has helped in other cases. Was it the increase in reward that helped, or was it just that the person had the information and it happened to be an increased reward? I don't know, but I do know that it makes the families feel like they're doing everything in their power that they can do to help solve this crime. And then we have a contract, and I wouldn't recommend doing it any other way for any other programs. And we call it an enhanced reward contract. And they sign the contract, they get us the funds, we keep it in a separate account, and it states in there that if the crime is solved without a tip, then we'll give their money back, or they can donate it to Crimestoppers, or donate half, whatever. So we've done all of those things. So there's no risk to that. But, like I said, every Crimestoppers program across the country does it a little bit differently.
Okay. That's amazing. I've always wondered that because you do see different reward amounts for different cases. And I've always wondered if there's a level, like you said, specific levels for the warrants, the type of crime, et cetera, or if it was additional funding, like a grant was awarded or an endowment fund was created for this specific situation. I've always wondered that. So thank you for.
And then the other reason why we say up to a certain dollar amount is because we've had to split the tips, because just recently we had about 6 different tips for this homicide that came in, and 3 of them were good in their own way. 3 of them were not. 3 of them actually gave different information. And so I sat down with the detective and we said, this one, and this one. And then we determined that they each got, it was $2,500. So 2 of them got 1,000 and 1 got 500. So that's why we say up to a dollar amount.
Okay. And if you want, when you go to donate, do you recommend donating to your local, or if you donate to the Crimestoppers umbrella, does that trickle down into the various locations? Is there a way to be specific, or the overarching umbrella?
So Crimestoppers USA is its own 501c3. So that organization, we definitely need funding also, but it doesn't really necessarily trickle down in cash donations to other programs. Okay. It would go to help what we do at Crimestoppers USA is we are all about sharing best practices. And we've got a legal advisor, retired judge. We've got CPA experts. We've got strategic planning. We've got just experts all across the board to help board it. We've got this amazing lady who does bylaws, who's amazing at that. So it helps run the nonprofit to help share best practices. Okay. And then, so obviously that's an awesome donation and we need it. And if you wanted to give to your local, you would need to find out how to donate to your local organization, because some of them are so small that they don't even have a donate button on a web. They don't even have a website, so you might have to give them cash or write a check, but it all depends. And not every county has Crimestoppers programs, which is sad.
Right. That blows my mind as well.
Yeah.
But like you said, you have like here, capital area Crimestoppers is not just Austin. It's like Austin and the surrounding areas, the suburbs that are kind of around it. And like you said, Flint and Genesee County, it's kind of a bubble of a location. So there's so many rural places in America that don't have access to these programs.
Yeah.
And that
so
makes me
we
sad.
get a tip that is for an area that doesn't have a Crimestoppers program, but they're in our viewing area for our television station. So it's confusing to the community. They don't know why it wouldn't count, So what we do is we'll respond to them. We'll say, your county doesn't have a Crimestoppers program. However, we will still send the tip to law enforcement. You just may not be eligible for a cash reward because there's no funding from that county. But, we've made exceptions, but depends on the area that you live in.
Right. Wow. I've learned so much from you in this short amount of time.
Thanks for having me. I love talking about Crimestoppers.
It's just truly amazing. So talk to me about the future. Like what do you see for the future of Crimestoppers?
Well, I think that a lot of programs need to evaluate. Fund development is very, very difficult, and you need to get younger people on board of directors, but that may be a generational thing, I don't know, but really with new innovative ideas to keep it going. And that's why I think our program is doing well, because we are always thinking outside of the box, and we work really hard at the fund development. So I think that's something else. I think why like our program is doing well, because we get so involved, not just with processing tips. We go to a lot of community events, and I know I'm not the only program. So that's why I love seeing on our Facebook, all the different Facebook pages for Crimestoppers programs. You see that they have, like in Grand Rapids, they do outside of the Children's Hospital, they do Light Up the Night, I think it's called. And they have all these people out there dressed as superheroes and having these glow sticks. And then the kids up in the hospital get to look down on this, and Crimestoppers, it's called Silent Observer over there. They are the ones who organize that. So, and then there's a lot of candlelight vigils that happen throughout the country. There's just amazing programs. And that's why I love being part of Crimestoppers USA, because I've got this network of people all across the country that are doing the same. We have the same mission, and we get to share our ideas with each other. If anybody's interested in starting a program in their area, they can email me and I'll get back with them. Or they can go on to crimestoppersusa.org, and there's a interest in starting a new program, and we give the people the help that they need, to the resources, like how to start the 501c3 and how to get it going. You have to have your buy-in from your law enforcement, but we help with that. They helped me tremendously get my program, a new 501c3, going in our area.
That's amazing. That you're doing they already have the behind the scenes legwork prepared.
Yes. Yeah.
So that it's not as overwhelming for someone wanting to start it. That's amazing. Yeah. And I want to kind of jump way back to where we talked about how y'all are more involved with any crime. It's not just homicide, it is not just missing persons. You do a lot of education related to drugs and gun control, or gun violence, rather. And it's really just getting the education out there. And I wanted to share this. Y'all have billboards that you put up related to that.
Mhm.
Including, about fentanyl awareness, as
Mhm.
well as, like I said, the guns. Can you talk a little bit about how y'all help promote the safety in communities?
Yeah. So we've got a public service announcement that goes along with these billboards. Like for the lock up your guns, I've got my amazing retired law enforcement. He retired from ATF and he's our law enforcement liaison. And we went on and said, lock up your guns, keep your kids safe, blah, 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 30 seconds. And so it goes along with these billboards. And then that's how we do those mobile ads. And then my amazing assistant came up with, she said, can I do some fentanyl billboards? I'm like, that's a great idea. So what we did with those, are those super creative?
This is I'm
Yes.
so impressed by these.
Yes. That is
Um,
Megan
and
Chen.
yeah,
She's our project assistant and she came up with those ideas. And what we did then is I work with UCAN. I think it's United Community Addiction Network, Michigan, but I think that there's more of around like in the United States or even internationally. So I work with Aaron Rubio there. And then also I work with Troy Udy from No More Detroit is No More Genesee, sorry, is KNOW, No More. And it's about fentanyl awareness. So since we had two billboards and I work with these two awesome people with experts in the field, that I'm not a fentanyl experts, like drug awareness, whatever. So I got both of them talk about two different things. One was the first time will kill you. It could kill you. Don't, and so Aaron talked about that. And then Troy had talked about fentanyl, the test strips. So we had two different messages and we went and taped both these public service announcements. And then we had them with these two different billboards. So we're always trying to think of crime prevention and crime awareness, not just trying to solve crime.
Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. And I went to college for graphic design. So when you sent these billboards over, I was like, that is just genius. And they're beautiful. Like they get to the point. They're amazing. So I just loved them. And I think
That's
they're
awesome.
so
That's what
important
Megan's
and
going to
informative.
school for.
Yeah.
She's in
It's
school right
just,
now for graphic design. So she's
yeah,
going to be
they're
happy to hear your comments. Thank you.
You're welcome. If anyone has any last questions for Julie, we're coming up on the end of our hour here. I, of course, want to thank you. For anyone that's coming to Advocacy Con, Julie will be there. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer any questions about Crimestoppers or provide any sort of information she can while she is there. She's also doing a panel with Nina and others, and Sarah as well, hopefully. And we're just excited to have you, honored to have you.
Thank you.
To be there with us. And I've just learned so much. I'm just flabbergasted that I've learned so much in this short hour.
Thank you so much for letting me share this information.
You're very welcome. Tell where can we follow you to help, to donate? What's the best ways?
So our website is crimestoppersofflint.com. And my email is very easy. It's julie@crimestoppersofflint.com or info@crimestoppersofflint.com. I get them all.
Okay. All emails go to Julie.
Yeah. Megan helps me with the info one though.
Perfect. Well, again, I just want to thank you so much, Julie. It's truly been an honor.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
See you soon.